Hello and welcome to another episode of Practical IT. In this episode, we're taking a second look at CentOS 8. I got a successful install going and we're going to poke around a little bit and then get our Lynis score. So let's get started. So the basic screen once you're logged in has not really changed much. Still running GNOME shell. Still have the same basic options on the side here. And let's take a look at settings. So still very minimal, clean looking. One of the options, they actually have picked something up from the Mac and they make you unlock things before you can make changes. So we'll see if this will successfully add my printer where Condra's OS failed. And so this is not finding the printer and the add button is not available. So yeah, I'm not sure what has changed lately for printers. My printer has not changed. I've had this printer for over 5 years now, and up until recently, I've never had an issue adding it to a Linux distribution. And now we're 2 for 2 that there have been issues. When I get to the bottom of this, and I will get to the bottom of this, I will report back in a separate episode. All right, so just for the sake of argument here, let's go ahead and open up our terminal. All right, so we are going to go ahead and move to our downloads folder. And we're going to clone Lynis from GitHub. All right, we've actually already got that on here. So I was ahead of myself. So we are going to do a standard audit. And see where CentOS 8 gets us. And if, I guess, but here by my notes, I've already run this once. If nothing else has changed, which this is the first I've fired up the VM in a few days, but if nothing else has changed, then the score should be a 65 as our base score. And again, we're getting warnings about long execution time. I've not found a good reference to why that's happening. Hopefully it's just a bug in Lynis and that'll be fixed in future versions. And one thing that could be different is they just haven't taken into consideration CentOS 8 yet, since it's such a new release. Okay, so again, we're on Lynis 3.0 as of the recording of this video. We are at a 65 for our hardening index, which isn't awful. It's a starting point, and if you were putting this system into production, then you would want to come on up here and address the warnings first. Couldn't find two responsive name servers. Promiscuous interface, which is probably due to the way I've got VirtualBox configured. Some users' home directories are not correctly set. That is a new one. I have not seen this particular warning before. So that I will be looking into. And then, of course, your suggestions. Explicit disabling of core dump. Expiration dates for passwords, minimum age, password, maximum password age. And so a lot of these are going to be, well, here's three right here. Home on separate partition, temp on separate partition, var on separate partition. I did the generic install of CentOS, which frankly most people are going to do generic installs. However, I stick by their suggestions that if you're doing this for a production machine, and especially if you're not using LVM, you really need to address putting the temp, var, and home on separate partitions. Database for locate could not be found. That's a simple fix. Disable drivers for USB when not used. If you're running a server, great. If you're running a workstation, well, then you can go into the config for Lynis and you can disable that check, because on real hardware, if you're running CentOS on a workstation, you're probably going to be plugging USB devices into it, storage devices into it at some point or another. Firewire, don't need. That is related to the fact that I'm running this VM on a Mac, and if there were no Firewire hardware present on the system, this wouldn't even be an issue. Let's see. Add the IP name and fully qualified domain name to Etsy host for proper name resolving. Sure, that's something that I would address. IP table rules. And where you're going to get the biggest section is in your SSH hardening, which I guess a pet peeve of mine is that some of these aren't set to defaults. It's just one of those things, but at the same time, when you have systems available like Ansible, a lot of these would be very easy to address once in a hardening script. Then, you do your base install from the ISO, and once you have your static IP address set, push that script out against the machine, and all these issues are somewhat magically taken care of, and in a consistent basis across all machines running the same OS. So something to think about. I'm becoming more and more sold on the idea of the orchestration, automation, and just being able to repeat things consistently. You know, these suggestions, I would say, are great starting points. You get somebody with Ansible experience or somebody that wants a challenge for learning Ansible, and you can take and solve this once. And while you may iterate on your Ansible script, once you've got it working, and please use version control for this so that, you know, well, let's just put it this way. Baseline is that whether you're doing Ansible or C++ or .NET or what have you, if you are developing code and it's going to change over time, then yeah, take some time, get set up with Git. Yes, I suppose the pun was intended somewhat. It is 4 o'clock and change in the morning on a Saturday, and set up Git. Push your changes to GitHub and make sure that you're able to recover if you make a change and really foobar the whole thing. It's all about safety nets. Keep things in a recoverable state, whether it's your OS install, whether it's, you know, scripting projects. With the tools available, there's no excuse not to do it anymore. Especially with the free and open source tools available, there's no excuse not to do it anymore. All right, so enough of my rambling. We're at a 65, which is a good starting point. So what else have we got for tools in CentOS? Well, you get the standard stuff. You've got a video editor, various utilities, VNC viewer, text editor, Firefox and Pigeon, standard fare, Rhythmbox, settings, your software store. Let's take a look at the file manager. And we've got 3.28.1 stable file application from, I'm sure that's from GNOME, all the people that worked on it. So very much inspired by Finder on the Mac. I can't believe too much has been released in a week's time. But hey. So anyways, that's our look at CentOS 8. Physically, not much has really changed. More changes under the hood, doing some wholesale migrations to newer versions of applications, just paving the way for the future. So one other thing I will check, as I didn't look at this while I had the terminal open before. This is running the 4.18 kernel, and well, we're at 5 point something at this point, which for a distribution that's supported as long as major CentOS releases are, I'm okay with them trailing behind. At least they're only one major version behind the current. And of course, they're going to backport features over time as they see fit and as they iterate through the different point releases of CentOS 8. On that note, I'm going to wrap this up because I'm probably rambling a little bit. If you like the video, please give a thumbs up and consider subscribing, and even leave comments down below if you so see fit. Until next time, this is Jeremy signing out for the Practical IT channel. Thanks for watching and have a great day.